Hey, you made it. Come on in and join me where I share stories about my reluctant and I think courageous journey into understanding my emotions. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself. I am super glad you're here. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button so you can follow the adventure as it unfolds. And if you love this podcast, share it with your friends. In this week's topic, I'm talking about a time I wanted to give up and I didn't, and how I found success. So it's the secret to success. I guess that's what we're talking about. In the first video, I talked about a time I wanted to give up and how I got through it. In the next video, I talked about a time I wanted to give up and consciously decided to keep going. In the next video, I focused on a time I knew that tough things were going to happen and I wasn't going to give up. I was going to succeed. Then we meditated, and in this video that I lovingly call the Fridity or the Friday Ditty, I'm going to share with you actually a parable and a poem today about this week's topic, the secret to never giving up, how to achieve your goals, along with explaining what happened inside of me. So let's get to it. Once upon a time, in a dense, thriving forest, there stood a young sapling named Willow. Willow was surrounded by towering and established trees. Their branches stretched high and wide, boasting leaves that kissed the heavens. Willow, small and slender, often felt overshadowed, both literally and figuratively, by the grandeur around her. One stormy evening, violent winds shook the forest. The great trees stood firm, using their deep roots and robust trunks to withstand the tempest. Willow, however, swayed and bent, her slender form pushed to its limits. She feared that she would snap, but she did not give up. Instead, she allowed herself to be flexible, to dance with the wind. And here's the poem. In the waves of life's relentless test, I've journeyed through without much rest. Navigating times when hope seemed thin, I'll share with you the strength within. You asked, so I'll impart the secrets held deep in my heart. With every tale of sorrow and strife, I gleaned the will to cling to life. This thread of unity, oh so stark, illuminated paths through the dark. So why persist when all seems lost? To demonstrate the unseen cost of giving in, of letting go. Instead, I chose my strength to show. For even when the night is deep, there's promises that we must keep. To all who need to know, we're kin in trials and in woe. By sharing this, I hope to guide and stand by every listener's side. So, a funny story, I was using AI to look up, I can't even remember the question I asked about giving up, and I immediately got the notification, call 988 right now. And so I had to have a conversation, or I got to have a conversation with AI. And even when I said, no, that's not why I'm asking, I had to clarify a third time before it gave me the information that I was really looking for. And what I was looking for was the idea that giving up doesn't always have to be bad. It can be good. Like, I don't know, giving up food that's not healthy for me. That's a good giving up. If, maybe some people give up smoking or cigarettes. I mean, those are big things out there that our society talks about a lot. Maybe I give up time going out with my friends to spend with my family. Maybe sometimes I give up time with my family to go out with my friends. So I just wanted to point out that giving up does not have to be this horrible, bad thing, because sometimes giving up is really important. And what I mean by that is that, for instance, in the last week, I have had one hell of a time and I've had problems with my blood pressure and all kinds of things. And I did not have the energy to do anything. So I needed to give up some things because I needed to take care of myself. And in that sense, I could look at giving up as I've miserably failed, I'm bad, I could go to the shame, but that wasn't true. just because of what my body was doing, which I'm used to dealing with my body doing weird things. I have complex regional pain syndrome, and weird things happen to me and they don't make sense. And so, what that means is I've got to give myself a little bit more grace. So, when I look at giving up things, usually, okay, I try to say I always do this. I don't, but I really try to look at it as okay, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to give that up for right now and do something different. So I just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know that I knew, and you probably already knew, that giving up can be a good thing depending on the perspective. So, like, you know, I like there are athletes. I talked about bodybuilding in the first episode of the week and how I worked really hard and then there was a time of fasting. Well, I was giving up food so that I could compete in this competition. And when it became too hard, I didn't give up the food anymore. I ate some food and then I knew like, okay, this is not something I'm going to do anymore. So it's like this, give and take. Without the positive, there can't be the negative. And we decide what is positive and what is negative. So, you get to decide what you are going to do. Like, here are some other things that are really good to give up on: grudges, anger. If a project is failing and you need to pivot, that's a giving up. A toxic relationship, I would give up a toxic relationship so that I could find a healthy one and find some positive energy. Absolutely. So the other thing though is remembering, like, if you're giving up on a dream, that is one of those things that's really hard. So what I try to look at is maybe it's not right this minute. Maybe these little steps are going to get me to this other place. And I have to do a lot of mental gymnastics sometimes. I call it mental gymnastics just because that sounds like fun. I don't know. Maybe it's a mental obstacle course because those are way more fun than gymnastics. But I have to kind of work myself through it. I've got to ask myself a lot of questions. And there's so many tools out there to do that. So many ways to ask yourself questions so that you know, okay, am I am I really failing and giving up? Or am I just taking a break? Like how do we how do you envision it, right? So there is that perception. Now, maybe there's a time where you're neglecting obligations or abandoning commitments. Those are things that are not socially acceptable and will probably cause you some real strife on the inside. So I think that, again, how are you giving this up for something better? I think there's a saying, you know, good, better, and best, or are you giving up something good for something better? Are you giving up something better for the best type thing? Right. So I think it's really has to do with perception. Part of me really wonders. Kelly McGonigal had done a study on stress, and it had to do with your perception of stress, if it injured your body or not, if it physically injured you. And so I think the same idea probably goes with giving up. If I perceive that I'm giving up in a negative way and I'm putting myself down and I'm decreasing my vibes, then it's probably going to be hurtful to my body and to my soul. So I think just taking a look at what is my perception and how am I deciding to tell the story about what I'm doing? Is it helpful or is it hurtful to you? So I just wanted to make sure that I talked about that. So there are so many. So let's talk about goals for a minute. I know I talked for a while already, but goals. Okay. SMART goals are fantastic. However, I want to point out that at one point in my life, especially after my disability came on and I had failure after failure after failure after failure, which told me goals were no good, I had this response like Pavlov's dog. to goals. So I had to learn that goals were safe again. And that took a really long time. And what happened was I started achieving little tiny things. Maybe it was reading a book. Maybe it was, for instance, I talked a few weeks ago about my caregivers pushing me in the wheelchair, and then I would walk and then they would push me for a little bit over time. Then what happened was I would walk and sit. So they would push, but they would push the wheelchair along behind me, so it just takes time. So I had to slowly build up some of these things. Um, you know, Find an accountability partner, but make sure it's one that's not going to judge you in a negative fashion. I, you know, I have people who remind me, well, it sounds like it's self-care time if because I will put a lot of pressure on myself to be more or do more than I'm really capable of doing. And then I will set myself up to feel like a failure. And that's really not cool. So just remember, setbacks happen, embrace them, love them, reward yourself for the little wins. I am doing that today. I'm actually getting this done. Focus on the progress that you have made. So, for instance, I had only made a little bit of progress towards my goal of getting these videos out for you guys, and today I was able to do a little bit more, and that is really fantastic. So I'm excited about that. The other thing is, and I don't think we talk about it enough in society, is that the goal is that's a great outcome, but it's not the goal that matters as much as it is the journey and what we learn along the way. I have this friend, his name is Kyle Spirides, and he's from Australia, and he wrote the book Decide Your Destiny. And one of the things that he talked about with me a long time ago on a show we did, I think we called it The Destiny of Your Soul, was that he made cosmic goals. And the reason he did this is because it was all about the journey. Was he going to make it to this goal? He didn't know. There's so many things in this world that happen. What he did know is that he would consistently take steps toward that goal, and that was what mattered. So I thought that was really cool. So, in closing, our goals are worthy, the climb's steep, but the rewards are ours to reap. My voice a beacon through the din, a lighthouse when storms begin. In each download, a chance to see resilience lives inside of thee. So let this episode of mine be the fuel you need to define. I'm Angela, in Tales Untold. In our journey, may you be bold. This path we tread, it's ours to keep, together strong. No hill too steep. Remember to like, share, comment below on any topics you'd like me to explore in the future. Remember to subscribe to Me Making Sense of Myself for weekly doses of inspiration. If you have a question, send it over and I'll answer it. Let's do this together. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself.